As stated by the Neptune Society website, while the Supreme Court did rule in 1990 that a patient has the right to refuse life-saving medical treatment, the courts, in two 1997 decisions, declined to rule that choosing when to die is a protected right. If you or someone you know was diagnosed with a terminal illness that made life so debilitating that you couldn't get out of bed in the morning or chase any of your dreams, would you desire the right to physician-assisted suicide? Although this concept may seem a bit extreme or far-fetched to certain people, it is important to discuss that there are a significant number of people all around the world that suffer from terminal illnesses, and there's also a significant number of people who would like their suffering to come to an end for legitimate, sound reasons. Making physician-assisted suicide legal around the globe could potentially spark controversy, but it would only be fair to the people who feel like their lives have already been taken from them due to their diagnosis and condition. There would be fewer people suffering and in pain if this right was bestowed amongst all people, and it would also make more healthcare available to patients that are suffering from illnesses that aren't terminal or life-threatening. First of all, there's an increasing number of states in the U.S., as well as countries around the world that are starting to legalize PAS. However, we are nowhere near reaching a point where these practices would be permitted in every single U.S. state and every single country. When people discovered that there are rules in place that prevent them from following through with something they strongly desire to do, in this case, ending their lives with the help of a physician, either the person themselves or someone that loves them will sometimes take matters into their own hands in an effort to end their suffering. According to the Santa Clara University website, lying in bed with teeth clenched from excruciating pain, Matthew pleaded to be put out of his misery. Matthew wanted to die now. His pleas went unanswered. Then, one day, Matthew's brother Harold, unable to ignore Matthew's repeated cry, removed a .30 caliber pistol from his dresser drawer, walked to the hospital, and shot and killed his brother. Harold was tried for murder. GBH News 2022 states that medical aid in dying has strong support in Massachusetts, and a bill to legalize it is before state legislators. Dan Diaz, an advocate whose wife, Brittany Maynard, ended her life through physician-assisted suicide after a terminal cancer diagnosis, is pushing lawmakers to pass the bill. Brittany was not going to allow the brain tumor to basically be in the driver's seat and dictate the amount of suffering she was going to endure, Diaz said. He and Maynard moved to Oregon in 2014 to get access to the treatment. The reason PAS is permitted in only a handful of U.S. states and a handful of countries is because there are numerous people, even doctors, that do not agree with the practice due to a multitude of reasons. As stated by the Heritage Foundation website, legalizing physician-assisted suicide, however, would be a grave mistake because it would endanger the weak and vulnerable, corrupt the practice of medicine as well as the doctor-patient relationship, compromise the family and intergenerational commitments, and betray human dignity and equality before the law. According to the Psychiatric Times 2022, in short, psychiatrists strive to prevent suicide. We do not provide it. In the words of Dr. Leon Cass, we must care for the dying, not make them dead. In order to solve this problem that affects so many people on a daily basis, it's important to make people aware of PAS and the positive effects it can have on our society. Studies have shown that there is a vast majority of people who believe in the right to PAS. Therefore, there's a significantly high chance of people coming together to support this global matter for the sole purpose of helping those who might desire the right to make this kind of decision independently. The Compassion and Choices website states that according to a Medscape poll completed in November of 2020, when asked, should physician-assisted dying be made legal for terminally ill patients, 55% of 5,000 doctors surveyed nationwide said yes, compared to 28% who said no, and then 17% who said it depends. According to the Neptune Society website, the practice has been deeply controversial, although a 2017 Gallup poll showed 73% of Americans in favor of allowing a patient with terminal illness to have the legal right to choose physician-assisted death. For positive change to occur, we need to show up and stand up for what we believe in. We can achieve this by not only coming together, but making the positive effects of PAS known. As stated by the Verywell Health website, with physician assistance, patients have a better chance of experiencing a painless and less traumatic death, aka death with dignity. According to the Lone Star College website, those terminally ill patients who have accepted their imminent death cannot prevent their families from plunging into financial debt, because they do not have the option of halting the medical bills from piling up. If terminal patients have the option of assisted suicide, they can ease their family's financial burdens as well as their suffering. In the future, if PAS was legalized in more places, the number of people experiencing pain due to a terminal illness would decrease, whether it be the patient themselves or their loved ones. The California Healthline website states that Amanda Villegas, 30, of Ontario, California, became an outspoken advocate for updating the law after watching her husband Chris die an agonizing death from metastatic bladder cancer in 2019. When the couple asked about the possibility of a physician-assisted death, Villegas says, staff at the Seventh-day Adventist Hospital, where Chris was being treated, told them inaccurately that it was illegal. When he finally made a request for death-inducing drugs, it was too late. He died before the 15-day waiting period was up. According to the Pro-Con website, when healing is no longer possible, when death is imminent and patients find their suffering unbearable, then the physician's role should shift from healing to relieving suffering in accord with the patient's wishes. If PAS continues to be illegal in most states and countries, it could have detrimental effects on patients that may be experiencing illnesses that are less severe. According to Medical News Today 2022, it makes more sense to channel the resources of highly skilled staff, equipment, hospital beds, and medications toward life-saving treatments for those who wish to live, rather than those who do not. The Lone Star College website states that for those patients who have a realistic chance of surviving an illness or accident, medical technology is science's greatest gift to mankind. For the terminally ill, however, it is just a means of prolonging suffering. Overall, the legalization of physician-assisted suicide in more than a handful of places around the world is a very serious matter. Nothing is going to change if we don't stand up for these patients that are living in agony every single day that can't take action or do anything about it. A difference can be made by learning more about PAS and how it will benefit terminally ill patients as well as society as a whole. Acquiring this knowledge is a means for it to be spread, and this knowledge being spread is the power we need to stand up for those that are unable to stand up for themselves. Would you want your suffering to continue due to a terminal illness that is completely out of your control? Thank you.